A critical examination of Nigeria's fiscal environment has again prompted conversations among experts, given the concerns around debt sustainability and debt-to-GDP ratio. According to them, there is need to take a critical look at how resources are channeled and utilized effectively so as to ensure sustainability and economic development. Now, what are the implications for the nation's economic resilience, and how can policymakers navigate this terrain judiciously? I'm being joined from Washington, D.C., United States of America again, Mr. Seun Onigbinde. He is the director and co-founder of Budget. Thank you so much, Mr. Onigbinde. It's good to see you. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. We understand the time challenge.
It's a pleasure being here today. I'm sure you can hear me well. Thank you very much.
Let's start with the issue of fiscal responsibility itself. How well are we doing in this part of the world, talking about the issue of fiscal responsibility, both on the federal and subnational level?
Yeah, and I think it's a conversation that is timely, that essentially we have to get on board as regards this. Because you will recall that on social media, there's been heightened interest and heightened evaluation of state-level finances, starting from Lagos, definitely. And we've had other states branching. People citizens be more curious about what's happening in other states. And I think it's also very, very important conversation to have, because the current state of economy, especially the recent choices by the government, either to remove fuel subsidy or to liberalize the exchange market, has caused untold hardship. So people are looking for some form of solidarity, which is highly validated. I mean, you can't be living large as a government official and you ask the people to be sacrificing. So that imbalance has triggered a lot of curiosity on the side of the citizens, asking the question of how funds are being used. And I think a lot of work that has been done by Budget and partners, the World Bank recently, has opened up state-level finances beyond what people even imagine. So we have, at least as of today, we have at least 26 states have their quarterly budget performance report online out of 36, that's a Q3 performance report, which is something that was not the norm previously. So we are seeing some improved accountability and transparency as regards this. The question is that citizens are asking more questions, and what we are seeing does not promote any level of fiscal responsibility. We're seeing 440 million naira car being bought by Lagos State government. We're saying on those states spending 7 billion naira on contingency, even though they've said part of that money was used for palliative. But citizens are also asking which palliative, who received a palliative worth 7 billion naira in those states. We've seen, even in other states, like the other state that took their procurement data off their site, but it was replaced after uproar by the citizens. So the questions of accountability are there. It doesn't show any level of fiscal responsibility. Nigerian public leaders continue to live, a luxurious life, that you feel is called for, Emirati princes, and in some sort of way, we still don't feel like we understand the primacy of public resources and how it should be efficiently spent for the good of the people. A lot of items you find on the procurement lines of government officials either is in antithesis to market realities. It doesn't make sense in any way. So it's very important that the current scrutiny should continue. Questions should continue to be asked until we can get the kind of results that we need. But what we have currently does not show the level of fiscal responsibility.
The Fiscal Responsibility Commission came out recently to say that excessive borrowing and the government should focus more on internally fiscal reforms to execute their programs and policies. That's what they are saying. How do we check these excesses before they get into budgeting? We're expecting 2024 budget now from states and, of course, even the federal government. So how can we put checks and balances in all of this?
The Constitution has given us guardrails already. It's just that the culture around public service does not promote accountability. In government, we have internal auditors, we have external auditors, we have the Accountant General, we have the State House Assembly. Even the State House Assembly have organs like the Public Accounts Committee. So it's abnormal for citizens to be the ones speaking out these items. The institutions of government are already wired, to be able to demand accountability and efficiency of public spend. You also have the procurement, the Bureau of Public Procurement, I mean, as defined in most of the states in different ways. So it's just because we have a culture that is not founded on service, that is much more grounded about personal accumulation. And that's why you see things around contract inflation, you see something like underreporting of public revenues, and all around crisis as you see them there. So for me, I feel that there are no new institutions that are meant to be catered. It's just how do we ensure that institutions are empowered to enforce the rules and ensure that accountability happens. The citizens will do their own part of questioning all public items or questioning public goods that are at any level that they have been procured. But the institutions, the Fiscal Responsibility Commission must stand up to ensure that institutions that are organs, they're supposed to ensure accountability, step up, because we're going to see the budget soon. And anybody that understands public finance will know that when people talk about corruption or abuse, it starts from the budget. Once you've appropriated for it beyond what is decent, let's not forget, during the Obasanjo, they had a due process office, which actually gets the budget. I mean, they don't wait till when procurement and start slashing amounts. No, you give too much power to people at that point. There should be a price verification unit that says, before I go and budget 4 billion for this item, how much, what is the realistic, valuation for that item? What is the price point for the item? Because once you put 4 billion for an item that is worth 1 billion, you've already raised the ceiling and create an opportunity for waste and arbitrage. You can be negotiating, which we know that a lot of people will go to the BPP and start negotiating those values for the BP, because once the BP gives you a letter of no objection, you as well as good and right to procure within that frame. So we are in that situation where price verification, budget credibility has to be the standard first before and this is why it's important. When the process for this budget wanted to start, we wrote a letter to President. We wrote him a letter. We didn't get a response. We did an open letter to him, and we also wrote to his office that there's some things that he has to avoid. There's some things that he has to avoid if he wants to get a proper budgeting system, and part of that is budget credibility and price verification mechanisms, and also strengthening the procurement unit. Because if the procurement unit is still not giving it independence or it's not being geared towards efficiency, then we don't get the kind of results. Then we keep asking why we are pouring so much, why we are making so much, and we can't even still elevate the experience of an average Nigerian. So I believe the organs and institutions are there. I believe they are not functioning as they should because the culture of government does not permit them to. And I think that's where to start. And I also believe that there's a lot of budget credibility and price verification that has to be there, and also the reform of the procurement and monitoring process.
FAC is obviously improving. Just yesterday, about 906 billion naira was shared among the 3 tiers of government. I see that smile there, Sheil. And many will say, how well are we making use of these funds, particularly at this time where subsidy is out, people are paying more for almost everything. So how do we take note of all of this and ensure prudency? I think that is where we are headed. Transparency and being prudent at this time. Debt service remains very high.
It's a problem. I mean, it's a gift and a cost. I mean, today oil price has started dipping. We see that Brent price has crawled to $80 per barrel. So ahead of the OPEC meeting expected at the end of this month, we don't know how many more cuts that we can take. And I don't think there's been some resistance by African countries saying they can't take further production cuts, especially as some of them begin to get their acts together, like Nigeria and Angola, in terms of production. So in a way, that also translates that we get higher FAC, but that also translates that also you look at current pump price of fuel, you cannot say that's realistic, which means in one way or the other, we're paying for subsidy. FAC has increased, definitely. Also, let's look at the exchange rate. There was a time we were converting at 400 naira or 440. Now the exchange is around 750, 700. So it's changed. It's something dynamic. Too much is given, much more is expected. And I think that's what the accountability and prudence has to be. We are hitting the ₦1 trillion mark easily, and that's like consistency. The experience of Nigerian citizens, workers, and provisional services have to change. and something that has to happen effectively. So I'm big on the fact that more money is coming to the hands of government. This is the time for citizens to demand much more, not just at the federal level. The chances that your experience would change are likely going to be from what your state governor does, because at the federal level, we've always said federal government should focus on the big macro issues, not federal government digging borehole, not federal government providing solar lighting in a remote community. Those are things that also open up this space for waste. So I won't believe this. The federal government should stay and do things within this own remit. But it's also important that people start paying attention to states and also demand that those accountability and those transparency do not stop. Because now that there's a lot of scrutiny on state level finances, you might see a situation where state governments start holding back in publication of information. And that's not supposed to be a norm within a democratic society.
Sean, something came to my mind while you were responding to one of my questions. Let me ask you before we wrap up this conversation. That it seems the kind of politics we run here in Nigeria also has a lot to do with this. There's a lot of expectations from followers and supporters, and sometimes politicians have to always, sometimes go out of their way to be able to satisfy them. For example, you're in the United States and you could see a senator, a minister or senator just walk and drive his personal car. So what do you think about that kind of mindset? How can we start to face reality?
It's about, if people ask and you don't give, they start making adjustments. When we talk about culture, it's very simple. Culture is whatever you promote and whatever you punish. When we talk about, if people keep asking and someone stops giving, then they stop asking. It's as simple as that. You have supported someone to get into public office. I've helped you get, it ends there. You believed in the person's vision. You believed in the person's idea. Then go back and benefit from what everybody benefits from. Go and let your experience be the same experience from everybody. But because you helped someone to campaign for 3-6 months, you now want to become a leech on the public treasury. It is unfounded. It is not grounded in any democratic structure. People do volunteering campaign in the US. They campaign because they believe in the ideology, they believe in the principles of the party, and they will put all their time to knock doors, to share pamphlets, to engage, and that's it. And that's it. They wait to benefit from whatever principles that they or the ideology they believe that party represents. If you, as someone has volunteered for a party or supported a party, then you go and focus on the benefit of programs that the government is doing, not you hustling contracts up and down and being a nuisance to public treasury. And I think that thing that we are the one that sow, we must reap. It's not founded in accountable public finance. So public officers need to understand that this is not my personal money. This is not, and I think that's the misunderstanding. A lot of people, because they are not challenged, because the State House of Assembly are in comatose, because the Auditor General is in their pocket, because even you have organs within, like the internal auditors, they are in their pocket. So the state governor or maybe the president or maybe a minister would just have latitude to do whatever they are. But that understanding must constantly be there, and it's something that must be promoted or punished. This is public resource. I mean, you don't abuse it, you don't use it anyhow. Use it with the highest level of efficiency. And I think when we get into that position, that's when we are going to be able to accelerate the kind of results that we want as a country. We have tracker every day. You see schools in comatose. You see hospitals in dilapidated condition. Ask yourself, how much does it take to fix this hospital or fix this school? But no, politicians would not do that. A single trip, maybe for a fantasy trip to go and look for an investor, will cost millions compared to what should fix a school or should fix an hospital. So there has to be some push and some demand from citizens, and there's some pushback from government that I'm elected to serve the people, not to protect or to help a narrow elite. If you want to be a member of our party, to support us on the basis of you believe in us, not because of what you can get from the public treasury. Because we can't have taxpayers working, sweating, paying money, paying millions of naira in taxes, and I'm just sitting somewhere because I can pay for someone for 3 to 6 months, and I believe that the public treasury must be shared with me. It's unfounded in any way, in any progressive society.
Sean, let's wrap up this conversation with an advice from you. A country servicing debt with almost 98%, am I right, of its revenue, and looking at it FX is also on the other side. What would you be saying to government representatives at this time if you're opportune to give an advice so that at least we can, cut our cloth according to we cut our coat according to our cloth now, not size anymore.
We have to be realistic. What is happening with Nigeria's fiscal state is an anomaly. It's not. I've not seen it anywhere else. Maybe I've not seen Syria budget or Afghanistan budget, but I've not seen any budget that you spend around 90% of your revenue on debt servicing. I mean, the World Bank recommends below 30%. It's unfounded in any way. Because it just means that you have a significant imbalance happening in the economy. And definitely you have to keep borrowing more, because this is not even about, you have not paid salaries, you have not run some overheads, you have not paid pensions, you have not even put down a single capital project. So which means you trigger another round of borrowing, and it's just like a continuous destructive cycle. There are no ways. I believe that Nigeria has to, and I also think it gets more worse with the current currency devaluation that we are having. Now it's going to be, especially for states, and that's how states also have to be more careful when they're taking foreign debt. And Lagos State is already a victim of that already. Taking a lot of foreign debt, and you see that as revaluation of the currency happens, you need to pay much more. Maybe they have to start hedging their currency and having a conversation with the federal government around that. But most importantly, in my head, is that there has to be some conversation on debt restructuring, and also our debt mix. The Eurobonds that we have taken in recent time has been the biggest drag in terms of our debt payments and bond payments. And so it's something that maybe looks like we have to avoid entirely in the next horizon. So the market is not friendly currently. We also have to basically maybe come to a position of restructuring if we have to, because I see the current government, I think they do better than the previous government. They care a bit about the macroeconomics. Not just they care to some extent about the macroeconomics. Unlike the previous government that just believed that they could print money out of every situation. So if you don't balance that component, there's still going to be continuous crisis. So it might be we go the Ghana, Zambia way. There are many countries in Africa. It's not just a Nigerian problem. They're asking for debt rescheduling or debt restructuring so that they can have a bit of breather. And if Nigeria wants to go that way, I think it's better that we go that way, because until we continue to continuously eat those marks, we can never have that macroeconomic stability that we truly wish. Some of the things we're doing now is to the CBN is doing now is to raise interest rates so that they can attract the FPIs, and that has not even happened as I think they plan to be, just because there's still the part of the fiscal component that there are still gross imbalances in there, and that has to be addressed in some sort of way. So the monetary institution can't keep trying to fight inflation. They can't try to fight price instability, and you still have a loose fiscal policy where a chunk of money has to still be printed or borrowed to be able to meet obligations. There has to be some rebalancing that's happening in that sense, in my own view.
Showunik Midiamos, thank you so much for your time. He's the director and co-founder of Boji. Thank you so much for joining us from the United States. We really appreciate this. We don't take it for granted. Enjoy the rest of your day.
It's a pleasure to have a wonderful time too. Yeah.